In Britain, we are raised on a single, comforting equation. More effort equals more life. Work harder, the story goes, and the rewards will follow. The house, the security, the freedom. But somewhere along the way, that equation quietly broke. Because in 2026, for the British middle class, effort has become a predatory game. A game where the prizes are real, but they are siphoned away before your hands ever close around them. There is an invisible handbrake bolted to your ambition, and the harder you press the accelerator, the tighter it grips. This is not a story about laziness. It is a story about design. Let me show you the 4 traps that are quietly engineered to keep hard-working Britons running in place. And then, how the quiet few have learned to escape them. Trap 1. The fiscal drag ceiling. Here is the mechanism. The tax-free personal allowance, the slice of your income, HMRC, cannot touch, has been frozen at £12,570 since 2021. The point where the higher rate begins is frozen too, at £50,270. And at the 2025 budget, that freeze was extended again, now running all the way to April 2031. Think about what a freeze actually does. Your wages rise with inflation, the cost of your weekly shop rises, but the thresholds do not move. So every pay rise you fight for drags a larger share of your income into a higher tax band. You feel richer on paper and poorer at the till. Picture the seaside claw machine. Your salary is the prize, gripped in the metal claw, lifting slowly toward the exit, toward real wealth. But this machine is rigged. The higher the claw climbs, the more its grip is programmed to loosen. And just before the prize reaches the chute, HMRC lets go, and half of it tumbles back into the pile. You did everything right. You still walked away with less than you reached for. That is fiscal drag, a pay rise quietly converted into a tax donation. Trap 2, the 60% dead zone. This one is a trapdoor, and it opens at exactly £100,000. Cross that line, and for every £2 you earn above it, HMRC withdraws £1 of your personal allowance. That withdrawal doesn't stop until the allowance is gone entirely, at £125,140. Do the arithmetic, and something absurd appears. Inside that narrow band, you pay 40% higher rate tax, plus an effective 20% as your allowance dissolves. A brutal 60% marginal rate on every extra pound. You keep just 40 pence in the pound. Now imagine you have young children, because at that same £100,000 line, you also lose your 30 funded childcare hours and your tax-free childcare, support that can be worth well over £14,000 a year, per child. Stack that on top, and for some parents, the effective rate on that income doesn't merely reach 60%, it exceeds 100%. Earning more leaves you with less. Picture climbing a mountain. For most of the ascent, effort and progress are fairly matched. Then, at one specific altitude, the mountainside becomes a sheer wall of glass. To climb a single inch higher, you must now spend 10 times the energy for only 10% of the progress. That is the dead zone, the altitude where the air is engineered to run out. Trap 3. The Childcare Paradox. For a household with a child under 2, a full-time nursery place can cost £14,000 a year, and considerably more in London, a bill that rivals the mortgage. Even with funded hours and the tax-free scheme, where the government adds £2 for every £8 you contribute, up to £2,000 a year, many families are left with a second rent to pay. So a strange calculation takes hold across Britain. 2 parents sit at the kitchen table and work out that a huge share of the second salary vanishes straight into childcare. They are, quite literally, working to pay for work. This is the subscription to life. You are no longer simply earning a wage. You are paying a steep monthly entry fee to a club, the office, that you cannot afford to leave, because leaving means losing your career, your progression, your pension contributions. Yet you cannot comfortably afford to stay, because the fee devours what you earn. You are locked in, mid-turnstile, paying for the privilege of remaining exactly where you are. Trap 4. The Property Treadmill. For decades, the home was the finish line, the proof that the effort had paid off. But look at the gap. In 2026, the average British home costs around 8.2 times average earnings. In London, that ratio climbs past 11, with typical prices well beyond £530,000. Even in the most affordable corners of the country, the Northeast, where homes sit near £162,000, a single salary rarely stretches far enough. Yes, wages have finally been creeping up faster than prices for a few years now, but from a starting line so distant that the gap remains a chasm. Picture running on a treadmill toward a beautiful house, projected on a screen ahead of you. You run harder, you save, you get a little closer, and every time you do, the projector simply slides the image 5 feet further back. The house looks real, the sweat is certainly real. But the distance never truly closes, because the screen was never a destination. It was only ever a way to keep you running. So, here is the uncomfortable conclusion. In 2026, the harder you work, purely as a labourer, trading hours for a salary, the more efficiently these 4 siphons drain you. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. Which means the escape is not to work harder, it is to change what is working. For most of the last century, British wealth was built through the payslip, through the P60 at the end of the year. That era is over. Today, wealth is built through net retention, not what you earn, but what you are permitted to keep, shelter, and grow. The winners have stopped being only labourers. They have started becoming owners. So how do you become an owner of assets, rather than merely a renter of your own effort? 3 tools do most of the heavy lifting. First, salary sacrifice. Instead of letting a pay rise get caught in the claw, you redirect part of your gross salary straight into your pension before HMRC ever sees it. For someone standing in that 60% dead zone, this is transformative. You can reclaim your personal allowance, recover your childcare support, and effectively receive enormous tax relief on money you were going to lose anyway. You are not spending it. You are moving it out of reach of the siphon. Second, the stocks and shares, ISA. You can shelter up to £20,000 a year inside it, and every pound of growth and income within that wrapper is completely free of tax. No claw, no taper. A quiet, walled garden where your money is allowed to compound in peace. Third, the SIP. Your self-invested personal pension gives you control over how your retirement money is actually invested, with generous tax relief on the way in, and up to £268,275 can eventually be taken as a tax-free lump sum. Notice the common thread. Salary, sacrifice, the ISA, and the SIP all do the same fundamental thing. They take your money out of the exposed pile the claw is designed to reach, and place it somewhere the machine cannot follow. Winning in 2026 means doing less work for yourself and far more work for your assets. Which brings us to the final lesson, the private scoreboard. Somewhere along the way, the most quietly successful people in Britain stopped playing the public game. They stopped measuring themselves by their gross salary, the number on the offer letter, the figure you announce at dinner parties. They understood that the public number is precisely the one the system is built to siphon. Instead, they began keeping a private scoreboard. Not what they earn, what they retain. Not how hard they work, how much of that work quietly ends up owned, sheltered, and growing on their behalf. Because the game was never really about effort. Effort is the easy part. Britain has never been short of hard workers. The game is about the siphons, the frozen thresholds, the dead zones, the paradoxes, and the treadmills. And whether you spend your life feeding them, or finally learn to manage them. So here is the question worth sitting with. You already know how to work hard. The real question for 2026 is quieter and far more valuable. Are you still handing your effort to the machine, or have you started, at last, to keep it? If you learned something, like and hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.